My boyfriend wants me to stay obese, even though I am dying. I'm 25, 160 kilograms, 352 pounds, and my body is falling apart. Although I am still mobile, my knees hurt, I can't walk fast, standing for long periods of time is hard. I often get dizzy and I've had seizures, heart issues, blood pressure issues, and I have sleep apnea, PCOS, fatty liver disease, and more. My doctor said that if I keep this up, I won't make it to 30. I met my boyfriend a few years ago when I was about 130 kilograms. I felt really ugly at the time and he made me feel loved. He would tell me how beautiful I am. He wouldn't make me feel ashamed of my body, and he would cook me food and bring me treats when he got home from work. I have tried dieting unsuccessfully over the years that we've been together, and he has always been really supportive of me, but this time it's different. Last year, I got health insurance because I made the decision to get bariatric surgery. I am so ready for this surgery. My mum just had it and has lost 60 kilograms. I need to lose this weight or I will die, and I don't want that to happen. I have scheduled it for the beginning of next year, and I meet my surgeon next month, and to prepare, I've been cutting back on all the crap I eat. I know it's not much, but I've been trying to cook my own meals, keep away from sugar, and manage my portion sizes. My boyfriend is not happy. As we near the date, he is getting worse and worse. He is very irritable, and he keeps trying to get me to eat junk. He keeps bringing home sweets and chips for me to eat, and when I refuse, he says I'm not fun anymore. He keeps saying I've changed, and after my surgery I will be different, and he won't like me. But I'm not getting surgery to keep his attention, I'm getting surgery for myself. I've spent my whole life hating myself. I deserve to feel healthy and look healthy. But he won't listen, and he keeps insisting that he makes dinner, or that I try something that he brought home. I don't want to eat this food anymore, or drink Coke and alcohol, or go out and eat McDonald's. At this point, I think he wants me to die. He would rather I be dead than healthy. When I've talked to friends and family, they just dismiss me and say he's scared that I'll think that I'm too good for him when I lose weight, but it feels like it's more than that. He says that it's because I'm perfect as I am, but it's not that either. In the comments, your boyfriend will do everything he can to sabotage your surgery, bringing you food you can't and shouldn't eat, and trying to manipulate you into failing. If you have ever watched the show My 600-Pound Life, it shows how a lot of friends and relations will deliberately try to get them to eat garbage. People don't like change or someone else succeeding at anything. Do yourself a favor and move on. You don't sound happy and he is not supportive. P.S. I had the surgery and lost 125 pounds, best decision of my life. I had the sleeve in November of last year. I'm down 112 pounds total, 86 pounds since surgery, and it's the best decision I've ever made. Don't let him take this away from you, OP. What your boyfriend has is a fetish. Anyway, your boyfriend can't rule over your body, and even less if it's something that affects your health just because of a fetish. He should be happy that you're taking this big step to improve your life, not reproach you and behave like an idiot. He should be supporting you in this and not trying to get you to fall for it again by taking junk food just to satisfy his damn fetish. You should consider ending it because it is a risk to your health. Yup, that's not a boyfriend, that's a feeder. I was about to make the same comment. Feeder. The bigger she gets, the more unwell and immobile she gets. The more she would depend on him, and he would hold all the power and feel like a big man. Plus the kink of enjoying watching her grow and knowing that he's making it happen. Ditching him is the best call you could have made. It is kind of surprising, but this seems like one of the least ethical fetishes. Totally agree. It puts one partner's life at risk to satisfy their desires. Did you see the post from the guy whose girlfriend was secretly a feeder? She researched how to increase calories in a meal without being noticeable, hid thousands of calories in this guy's meals, tampered with his shakes, and sabotaged every effort he made to get healthy. Absolutely appalling. And now this guy is emotionally abusing his partner. He needs to go, pronto. You do not need this person in your life. You deserve much better. Get into therapy. Bariatric surgery will change your life, and you have to change with it. The first 12 to 18 months post-op are a gift in terms of weight loss. Emotional eating is a very real thing. Anyone can gain 100 pounds, one M&M at a time. Remember that when you have surgically altered your body for better health. And now, onto the update. So today we were going to see my mother. While we were there, he ordered a huge amount of food from a Korean chicken place that I used to love. There were only 3 of us there, and my mum can't eat any more than a small side plate, so I don't know why he ordered enough to feed the whole country. It cost him $180 for things that I refused to eat, and my mother couldn't, even if she tried. She was so embarrassed, as she is very polite and finds it rude to refuse food because of our culture. It's especially rude to refuse food someone has gone through the trouble of bringing up to your house. This is just ridiculous now. We have just left, and I'm about to tell him to pack his things. He won't be staying another day in my house. How dare he embarrass my mother like that? Not looking forward to this argument. Update 2, he is gone and I am okay. I thought I would be sad, but I'm surprised about how happy I feel. Maybe it's because the minute I kicked him out, my brother came over to make sure that he doesn't come back. My brother said that he'll stay with me for the week to make sure I'm safe. Boyfriend did not take this well. He started with begging, then turned to insulting me, telling me how I will never do any better than him. Lastly, he tried to take my dog, but luckily I have gravity on my side, and he's a twig, so he stood no chance. I'm excited to start my journey to better myself. This was the first and best step that I could have taken. Now in the comments, gross. He's a feeder for sure. He's probably why she gained 30 kilos over the course of their relationship too. The guy would literally sacrifice her life to satisfy his fetish. What a piece of crap. I had a friend in high school whose family kinda blew up from a scandal with her brother and his wife. She somehow found out that he had been secretly mixing a crap ton of butter and whatever else he could find online into all of the food she ate, that way he could fatten her up as much as possible. A lot of crap happened, and the dude basically ended up with a suitcase of possessions because of how much evidence his ex-wife slammed him with in court. She's doing much better now. Still a legend around town. People like that ex-boyfriend are disgusting. Like seriously, it's one thing to have a fetish, and it's a whole nother thing that said fetish is slowly harming and killing your partner, and instead of understanding them and trying to help, you get pissed off that your partner is trying to save their own life. What the hell, man? Nobody should sacrifice their own life for your disgusting and selfish fetish. Well, she lost some weight fast, but it was the dead weight of her shit boyfriend. Seems like the pathetic loser was keeping her overweight to stop her from leaving, or had a weird feeder kink. But they tend to admit it when pushed, so who knows in the end. All that matters is that her family has her back, and she can focus on her. I find it hilariously ironic that he wasn't able to hurt her further because she was so much bigger than him. All the best to OP, and I hope her surgery goes great. And that's where I'm going to finish today's episode, guys. I do hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. My wife asked me to choose between my mum and her, and I think I'm going to divorce her. A little background. My mum and dad were both orphans. My dad died 2 weeks before I was born. My mum didn't really have a support system, so we were just the 2 of us. I never lacked anything because my mother worked all of her life to give me the life that I have today, and didn't even have time for herself to start a new life again. She did all the little jobs possible so that we didn't miss anything. She deprived herself of food to give me food, and I had very good clothes while she had none. I saw her make sacrifices again and again, and always with a smile. Frankly, I always thought that she was an angel dressed in a human's body. The only time she yelled at me was when I was 16, when I saw her getting sick and working at the same time. I wanted to help her by finding a job, but she was angry and told me that it was not my job to take care of her, and it was up to her to take care of me. She wanted me to get really good grades to get into the best universities, as it's the only way that I can protect myself when she can't anymore. Even at university, she didn't want me to work. I had to be focused on my studies, but she wanted me to volunteer, so that I could be an adult who could do something with his hands. I met my wife there while both of us were volunteered. My wife is a good person, but she was never close to her parents or her siblings, yet she adored my mother since she met her. There were times when I thought that she loved my mother more than she loved me, and we laughed about it. Deep down, I think she was looking for the bond between mother and daughter that she did not have from her mother. When I finished my studies, I found a job, and we moved in together, but she wasn't comfortable that I call my mum every day. I'll remind you that those were 10 to 15-minute calls, but eventually she stopped bringing it up. 2 years later, I bought a house for my mother because we never had a house in our name. We lived from apartment to apartment, so for all the sacrifices she made, it was for me the least of it, and it was non-negotiable. That's where the problem started with my wife, then girlfriend. She wanted me to think about us first. I told her my dream had always been to buy my mum a house since I was little, and that's what I had to do. But she complained about it to my mum. My mum didn't even know that I bought a house for her, as it was supposed to be a surprise for her birthday. She was uncomfortable for receiving the house because of my wife, and told me that wasn't necessary, and that we could use it for us when we get married. I was furious. I told my mother that the house was for her and that she could do with it whatever she wanted, but it was time for her to think about herself first. Our couple survived that. We got married, and then we had our own house. Our life was going well until 2 months ago when my mother fell ill. I wanted her to come and live with us so that I could take care of her, but my wife didn't want to. I then decided to rent an apartment with my own money right next to our house so that I could be close to her and go there to take care of her. But even that idea didn't sit well with my wife. My wife and I don't have children yet. We both work. I usually come home at 6 p.m., but since my mother is sick, I go to see her and come home at 8 p.m. On weekends, I see her for 1 to 2 hours, and the rest of the time I spend with my wife. We go on dates. I always accompany her in her hobbies, even though she never goes to mine. 2 days ago, she told me that she thought about it, and she thinks that I prioritize my mother too much. She told me that I had to choose between my mother and the life that I want to build with her. The truth is that I never made her feel that way. We both work, but I'm the one who cooks, and I pay a person to do the housework. I make sure I do the dishes that she likes. She didn't even know what I like to eat because I never complain. I run her baths, I give her massages, flowers, I write her poems that I hide somewhere in the house for her to find. We go on trips 1 weekend a month. I earn much more money than her. I told her to keep her money for herself, and I take care of the bills, even hers. I always make sure to listen to her and consider her opinions, and I think I'm easygoing because I can change my mind to accommodate hers. But I realize that she tries to completely dominate me, and the only subject where I don't give her a choice is my relationship with my mother. So there, I'm going to have a talk with her and put some very clear boundaries down. If she doesn't want to talk, well, we're going to divorce. I just wanted to get this off my chest. In the comments, I'm sorry that your mother isn't doing well. I, 44 female, feel like I can relate to this situation from both sides. Your wife is resource guarding. She doesn't like that your money that could be her money is getting spent on your mother. Your money is one resource, and she also doesn't like you spending so much time with your mother. Your time is another resource. To me, ultimatums are manipulative at best and abusive at worst. If she doesn't like the situation, she has a choice, and she can leave if she wants to be black and white about it. That said, you have a partner. As much as you care about your mum, you're making a lot of unilateral decisions to benefit your mum without much or any consideration for your wife. It's not sustainable in a healthy way for you to be at your mum's every night for hours. If she needs care, then perhaps hiring some in-home healthcare resources a few days a week at least would be wise. Beyond it taking a toll on your marriage for you to be over there daily, you're not a trained caregiver, and depending on what your mum's needs are, a professional might be best for helping with bathing, toileting, cleaning, and cooking. Also, you're at risk for caregiver burnout because you have very little time to yourself and are being pulled in different directions. I have dropped everything to care for a family member and left my husband cross-country for a few months to do so. But I'm also a trained provider and it was a short-term situation until we could get care organized. I do feel like I understand your situation, but I can also appreciate why your wife feels like she does. I think she's being rather crap about how she's handling it, but her concerns seem valid to me as well. Perhaps a couples counselor could help, but at the end of the day, when someone gives me an ultimatum, I call their bluff. I won't be bullied like that. I think you could find a compromise, but it's not choosing one or the other person, and the fact that your wife thinks that's a reasonable ask makes me question her humanity. OP says, "Oh, thank you for your perspective. I hope your family member is fine and safe now. When I wrote my post, I was in such an emotional state that I didn't represent my wife fairly. She's a wonderful human being, even if I struggle to see that in the last few weeks. I have my own company. I had this idea since university, but I didn't have the money to prototype a product that I wanted to implement. Investors need a working model before deciding whether it was worth investing or not, which is completely normal. I was going to give up. I wasn't even sure that I'd make it, to be honest, and I wanted to settle for the idea that I did the best I could. But my mum gave me a savings account that had enough money to make the prototype that I wanted. This money she saved for about 20 years. Every time she could put money aside, she put it in that account. She told herself that if she were to die, she would leave me this money, because she had nothing else to give me. That's the kind of mother I have. I said to myself, if she believed in me to give me all this money, it's because she really thinks that I'll succeed. From there, I never had any doubt in what I should do. In a way, she's the first investor into my company. The house that I gave her is a bit like her own money. I don't feel proud of having done something because I can never repay her for the things she did and continues to do for me. The house in which I live, I bought it for my wife, because she was also with me when I had doubts and struggles with money. She supported and encouraged me. So I really don't understand the problem. Before my mum got sick, I only saw her every other weekend. Although I communicated with her every day, it was calls that lasted 10 to 15 minutes. 10 to 15 minutes a day, and my wife thinks that's too much. My mother has always been a strong and independent woman. She has her own life, her own hobbies, and friends. I have always encouraged her to start a new life, but she still has her wedding ring and has never forgotten my dad. So I stopped pushing her to meet someone. She lives her life very well. But as she is sick, I asked my wife if my mum could come to our house. She refused while asking me not to tell my mum because she doesn't want her to know that she refused. So I decided to take an apartment near our house to take care of her and give her the best environment to heal. So I don't really understand where is the problem. I'm still not convinced that I prioritize my mum because for me, it doesn't make sense. We're all from the same family. I'm going to have a talk with her this weekend to see what we can do because she doesn't realize the more she behaves like this, the more she pushes me to leave. And someone replies to OP, I think a big part of the issue on her side is that the two of you never make decisions as a team. It doesn't sound like either of you know how to make these decisions as an equal partnership. I really believe before you make a decision to stay or leave, the two of you need couples counseling because you aren't communicating well at all. I think it will help to get to the root of her fears and uneasiness about your relationship with your mum, especially if she never had that before. And now onto the update. Before confronting my wife, I had time to reflect, and I came to the conclusion that I will never again let anyone in my life dictate the relationship I should have with my mother or the time that I should dedicate to her. So I decided to answer the ultimatum, but first, I wanted to know if there was another reason why she gave me this ultimatum. She replied, nope. I asked her, apart from what she blamed me for, was there something she wanted to tell me but couldn't tell me? She said there was nothing and asked me to come to the point, so I told her that I wanted a divorce. She remained frozen. I think she was shocked because she wasn't talking. She was just staring at me. I tell her everything that was on my mind, that our values are too different, I was going through the worst moment of my life, my mother was sick. We did several tests with her, we still don't know what she's suffering from. We don't know her family medical history because she was an orphan. It makes me anxious to know that overnight I could find myself alone in the world. Yes, alone in the world, because in these difficult times, all that I needed was her support. But if my own wife thinks that I should give less attention to my mother who is sick and who needs me more than ever, it's time to go our separate way. She still didn't say anything, so I told her that I'm going to a hotel for now, and we'll discuss later how we're going to separate. I took some of my things and left. The next day, I went to see my mother. She figured out something wasn't right, but I was not going to tell her. I was separating from my wife because she could not bear our relationship, especially since she was sick like that. I didn't want to add more torment to her. I never discuss my marriage issues with my mother anyway, so she does not know our problems. And honestly, she adores my wife too much. And my wife behaves as if she was her own mother, so I was not going to tell her what she was thinking behind her back. My mom ends up telling me that my wife didn't come by that day. Yes, my wife, who asks me to reduce my contact with my mother, was seeing her every day. And I never asked her to do anything for my mother. She calls my mother Mom. When she gets sick, she used to go to my mother so she will take care of her. It used to hurt me because it's as if I couldn't take care of her. But she said this was not the same. The attentions of a mother are different. I told myself that it was her way of creating a mother-daughter bond that she never had, and I understood her. She even said her mother used to tell her that she was not supposed to be born, that she was an accident, that she almost aborted her, and regrets not doing it. Only a monster could say that to her child. So I never said anything when she wanted my mother's attention. Besides, I received enough love to share with whoever wanted. My mother, after I left home to study, became a foster mom for children. She always did it until 2 years ago. I have always loved each of the children with whom I still keep in touch and whom I consider to be my siblings. Once a year, we all went on vacation together for a week. The children, my mother, and my wife. I generally take 2 months of vacation, of which the 6 weeks I devoted to my wife, but the 2 weeks that I devote to my mother and the children. It was too much for my wife. Anyway, I'm rambling. So when my mum told me she didn't come to see her that day, I went back home because I was worried. I found her in the bathroom with her clothes on and eyes red like she was crying the whole time. Seeing her like that was unbearable. I helped her out, but this woman who has so much pride collapsed in front of me with so much crying. I don't know if it was an hour or two, but she kept crying. Calmed down, crying again. I just stayed silent. She ended up telling me that deep down, she never wanted me to involve myself any less in my mother's life. She was always jealous of our relationship. She was always jealous of the attention my mother gave to the other children. She knows that it wasn't rational, but she couldn't help constantly striving to be number one in my mother's heart. It was kind of a competition for her. So when I wanted to take care of my mom, she didn't want me to be the one taking care of her. I was honestly furious, without saying anything of course, but I wondered if she was a psychopath or something. We are talking about a person who is seriously ill, and she's thinking about her damn competition, even if it means sabotaging the relationship I have with my mother and putting us in a situation where I want to divorce her. She told me that she was very jealous of me, and that she would have liked to be in my place. If she had to choose, she would have even chosen to be my mother's child rather than my wife, even if I was the love of her life and the only man she has ever known. She also told me that even if the world falls apart around me, I will remain stoic, that I live as if I don't need anyone, and that I give everything to others, but I don't know how to let others reach out to me, and she never managed to get there. Only my mother could get there. At that moment, I didn't know what else to say. I was hooked on this idea of competition so that I did not immediately grasp the scope of these words. But I still listened to her to the end. I put her to bed until she fell asleep, and then I went to sleep in another room. In the morning, she was acting like anything happened. She was being herself. She said that I don't have pity. I told her that it was out of love that she was still my wife. She left to work, and I do the same, but I decided to stay at the hotel from the time being. During that time, I wondered what I could have done, acted, or said to make her feel like that. Deep down, I think she's right. It's a defense mechanism I've had since childhood. I've never stayed in one place longer to make friends. It was heartbreaking every time we had to move between the ages of 5 to 15. I have moved more than 50 times, from apartment to apartment, from hotel room to hotel room, and since then, I have always lived my relationships like a squat. I never unpacked and settled in because I knew at any moment I could be kicked out. But I thought with my wife that I acted differently, but I guess not. So I thought maybe we didn't need to go that far. What we needed wasn't divorce, but therapy. Then this happened. A little over a week after our discussion, I was called from the hospital. My wife had been hospitalized. She apparently did not feel well. I went to visit her, but she didn't want to see me. If you see the eyes I saw, I've never seen so much hate in just 2 eyes. I told her besties so she can have her support system because she didn't want me there. I told my mum, and she asked me what I'd done to my wife so that she ended up in the hospital, and that I should not stress a woman who was pregnant. I said, what? She told me that my wife told her and asked her to keep it a secret because she wanted to tell me herself when she was ready. I don't know what was going through my head, between anger that it was my mother who told me, or happiness at having to be a dad for the first time, and total confusion at the surreal situation. I went to my wife and told her I knew, but she looked at me angrily again and told me she had lost the baby and that it was my fault. In an instant, I just get the news my wife was pregnant, but she kept it from me. That I was going to be a dad, and that we lost the baby, and that she was accusing me of having caused something that I didn't even know about. She asked me to leave, and so I left. I've always wanted children, since very early on. My wife wanted to put her career first, and I understood that and accepted it. I've been trying to convince her for years, but without success, and now that she gets pregnant, she doesn't tell me anything. She talks to my mother about it and says that I caused her miscarriage. Since then, she's saying that she didn't tell me anything because she wanted to first confirm if I could deal with all of the responsibilities that I give myself and raise a child at the same time. I don't understand her, and I admit that since then, I've had a fierce hatred against her. I don't know how to look at her without having an intense anger inside me, and I don't want to hurt her with my words. I take care of her at home, but we don't talk to each other. I'm not going to stay with her. It is not possible. I started a session with a psychologist, and he told me that patience was my best weapon, that I shouldn't make a permanent decision on emotions that could be temporary, and that I should take time to see if there were things to salvage. Here is where I am. I don't know if I'll do another update. I took days off to be there for my wife and for my mother, but I'm feeling pretty depressed, and I just want to get away from all of this bullcrap right now. Now in the comments, you and your wife both have pretty extremely unhealthy attachment styles. Regardless of if this works out or not, keep in therapy. I don't think your wife is evil, by the way. I feel like I followed your post and reserved any emotional response to the end. Oh, I have so many things I could say, but for now, I'm sorry that you're in pain and in the middle of all of this. Focus on you. Take care of you. The rest will be there to deal with when you're ready. This is spot on. Everyone needs serious therapy. Most of these attachments are unhealthy and borderline toxic. OP is a mama's boy, and the wife is trying to compete for attention and money from 2 different people. What the hell? Wow, this was hard to read. Honestly, I could use a couldn't read, didn't understand because I have no clue what's even going on. OP's widowed mum worked insanely hard to give him as much of a life as she could. OP finds wife. Wife has mummy issues and is jealous of his relationship with his mum. Mum gets sick. Wife issues ultimatum to pick between the 2 of them. OP picks divorce. Actually, his wife was pregnant and lost the baby, and it's OP's fault somehow, even though she didn't say she was pregnant. OP even had a conversation with his wife to see if there were any other issues, and she insisted there wasn't, just that it was either her or OP's mum. His wife, hopefully soon to be ex, sounds manipulative. It sticks out to me that even the mum was concerned about his behavior and priorities. He keeps blaming his wife for his mum not being comfortable with him prioritizing her, but I wonder if mum just kinda wants to see him progress as an adult with his own relationship. I agree, and also he plays this whole big perfect son thing, But this is just one of the examples in his story where he completely doesn't take into account what his mum wants or says. Like, what? Quote, "She doesn't even know what I like to eat because I never complain." Oh, I hate that. That little pedestal act is the worst. Why wouldn't you want the person you love to know if they're actually making you happy or not? It's always been used as a weapon in my experience. During an argument, it just gets pulled out for this is how I'm better than you maneuver. To make you feel like crap for not knowing or having paid attention enough to know they're faking it for your sake or whatever. Her being pregnant makes sense. He was gone too much. He was making himself a caretaker for someone else, putting finances towards his mother. He was prioritizing his mum repeatedly. She didn't trust that he'd put their kids first or be there for them, and I suspect there is a whole lot left out of here from his account. Ugh. This reminds me of my ex-husband. One day I asked what he wanted for dinner, and he said pasta, so I made pasta. He didn't eat it. This man is a garbage truck. He loves food and eats everything, so I asked him what was wrong. He admitted that he didn't actually want pasta. He thought that I liked it, so that's why he suggested it. We had a full kitchen with stuff that he and I both liked. I couldn't understand why he would ask for something else, and I still don't really understand. After a few years, it eventually came out that he had been slowly torturing himself by choosing activities, foods, places to live, vacations, you name it, based on things that he thought I would like instead of what he actually wanted. He thought that he didn't deserve me and ended up trying to balance that karma by purposefully doing things that he didn't want to do, all for me. Meanwhile, I had no idea. In my mind, I asked him what he wanted, and he told me that that's what we did if we both liked it. The whole time, he was building up quiet resentment. Eventually, he was having some mental health struggles and developed a persistent delusion that, among other things, I was a projection of his subconscious punishing him for things he had done wrong. It took years for him to tell me all of this and end the marriage. Moral of the story is don't effing do that. You aren't being a good spouse, you are lying by omission. Am I the asshole for walking out of my birthday dinner after my sister and her boyfriend announced that they were getting married? This was a couple of weeks ago, but I still think about it. I, 16 female, had my sweet 16th a couple of weeks ago. Nothing too crazy in that, but my parents and my extended family all came over, and we went out to a nice restaurant that my parents had booked. A lot of my family, cousins, and nieces and nephews were there, so it was a lot of people. After we ate dinner, and it was time to blow out my candles, my mum insisted that I open some of the presents so I don't have to carry them home. My aunties, uncles, and grandparents gave me my presents after opening their present and saying thank you and that. My older sister and her boyfriend gave me their present. Inside of their box, what they gave me was a "Will you be my maid of honor" card on top of the present. I obviously gave them a confused look, with a weird expression on my face. My mum came over to look in the box as well, and she loudly said, "You're getting engaged?" My sister squealed with excitement and told us all about her proposal and how they're already wedding planning. She said that it was the perfect time to announce their engagement since all of our family was here. When my sister asked if I was going to say yes, I just nodded and excused myself to the bathroom. No, I didn't go to the bathroom. I ended up walking out and went to a nearby park. A couple of hours passed by, and my dad pulled over on the curb and told me to get in with him. I expected him to yell at me, but he ended up taking me out for ice cream, and we sat at the lake and we just talked. When I got home, I saw my cake on the counter, and my mum got up and started yelling about me about how I wasted money, wasted my family's time, and my sister and her boyfriend came out and told me how mean I am for doing that to them. My sister ended up saying that my birthday wasn't as important as her wedding, and my mother agreed. My dad told my sister and her boyfriend to get out, and ended up talking to my mum about how they could have checked with me beforehand instead of just announcing it. So am I the asshole? In the comments, not the asshole. They hijacked your celebration and made it about them. If they wanted to announce it with everyone present, they should have done the right thing and asked you first. Absolutely classless. OP's and Dad's reaction suggests that this isn't the first time sister has pulled a stunt like this. I smell a golden child enabled by a monster. Thank God OP has their dad to rely on. That's one good thing. As horrible as the situation sounds, not the asshole. Dad sounds awesome. I didn't expect the post to go that way, but he really stepped up and did right by OP. Anyone else suspect that the mother knew? Especially with her getting OP to open the gifts then and there. Not the asshole. It sucks when milestone birthdays come second fiddle to other people's egos. Mum definitely knew. What an asshole. Sister must be the golden child. Glad OP's dad is at least on their side. Mum probably only reserved the restaurant and invited the family as a ruse for the birthday, honestly. It was most likely all a plan for the sister's announcement. Honestly, that was my first thought, followed by, pretty sure I can guess who's Mum's favorite. With her reactions and the "your birthday isn't more important than my wedding," they are barely engaged, and she threw her own sister under the bus and had no cares about her feelings. 16 is a big milestone for most teens, followed by the 18 and 21. Good thing Dad shut that down real fast. They'll announce their pregnancy at the 18th, and then the divorce at the 21st. I wouldn't be surprised at all if they actually did. Everyone's gathered anyway, let's add in the graduation party too. Info, out of being nosy. Did they get you an actual birthday gift, or was your presence in their wedding the gift they gave you? OP says, basically just a shitty box, with the maid of honor card and little accessories that she wanted us to wear on her wedding day. Kind of like stuff you'd put to give your bridesmaids as well, if that makes sense. You didn't explain why you left, or what did you talk about with your father? OP says, I left because I was upset, not trying to sound like a brat or anything, but everyone's attention just turned towards my sister and her boyfriend/fiancé, even though it was my birthday, and most people look forward to their sweet 16th. I just had to get out of there because I knew that I'd cry. My dad and I just talked about what happened, and he asked if I was alright, and was telling me that him and my mum didn't even know about her engagement. Did you confirm that your mum knew that your sister was going to do this? 'Cause she sucks, and I would talk to your dad and show him these comments. He sounds solid, and your mum sucks. Not the asshole. Damn girl, I feel so sorry for you. What a shitty thing your sister and mum did. OP replies, my mum denied the fact that she knew anything about my sister's engagement, as they were arguing about it non-stop. So was your mum mad at your sister as well? No. She thinks that it was a nice surprise, and that I should have been appreciative instead of walking out and wasting everyone's time. Are you still planning on being the maid of honor, after what she did and said to you, and the fiancé too? OP says, definitely not. It's a huge responsibility to be a maid of honor in a wedding, help planning the wedding as well, and I think they take care of the bridal party or whatever as well. I've got no clue on how to plan a wedding, especially at my age, but I'll probably be one of the bridesmaids. I would like to know what the rest of the family thought of this, and are they on your sister and mother's side, or on your side? OP says, my sister and her fiancé received texts from my grandparents and a few aunties and uncles saying that it was a shitty move to pull, and they should have asked before announcing their engagement. Although they are happy for my sister and her fiancé, as a wedding is a big deal, they just said that it wasn't the right time, as she wouldn't like it if someone else announced that on her birthday. But nobody's on any side, and they've moved on from it. And now, on to the update. I'm grateful for all the comments and your opinions, and I showed my dad all of the comments and what people wrote. He says that you are all hilarious and appreciates you all. He was laughing at all the stuff that I should do at the wedding. My dad and I sat my mum and sister down just so that I could explain to her that I won't be her maid of honor, as it's a big responsibility, and that it should be in the hands of an adult instead of a 16-year-old. Although she tried to convince me further, I still said no. She starts growling me, saying that I was ruining her wedding, and that she and her fiancé went out of their way to buy me a gift, which was her proposal box to me. Unfortunately, my mum and sister started telling me how cruel it was to ruin a wedding and that it's not about me, it's about the bride. My dad ended up arguing with my mum about how it isn't cruel and no 16-year-old should have to plan and help organize a wedding, as that is what maid of honors do, and it would be stressful and should go to an adult instead. My mum started arguing with him about how it's not my day, as I already had mine, and I should go forward with the sister's plans as it's about her and not me. My dad brought the birthday up and argued with my mum and sister that she ruined my birthday, and if she didn't try to make it all about herself, we wouldn't be arguing. I don't want to go into too much detail of what went down, but basically my sister started crying, and my mum called me a brat and a disgrace, and how I've officially ruined my bitchy sister's wedding. I'm now staying at my grandparents' house until things cool down at home. I don't think they will, to be honest, since my mum tells me any chance she gets that I'm a brat and a horrible sister for not helping my big sister out for her special day. My dad is with my mum trying to sort her out, and my other grandparents, my mum's parents, are talking with her as my dad told them what happened. I'm not going to be her maid of honor nor her bridesmaid since she's a dick. I'm not sure if I'll even go to her wedding. I'll just have to see what my dad thinks about it. My grandparents, my dad's parents, who I'm staying with at the moment, are talking to my dad about considering divorce or taking a break from my mum, as she and my sister are creating a toxic environment for him and I to live in, and that after all these years, they see no reason for him to live with such a woman. I don't really know what to think about it, and I kind of feel lost, but I thought that I'd update y'all. Your dad and grandparents are rock stars. Glad you have some people looking out for you. Always remember to put your own mental health ahead of others' wants and desires. Your sister and fiancé went out of their way to make you a birthday present that had nothing to do with you. It was all about themselves. I'm curious, are there any pictures from your day that you would want to put in an album for yourself? And OP says, only a few. One of my parents and I, one with my sister, and the rest are just my family, but just one with me by myself. I never understand forcing someone to do stuff like this after you wrong them. You hijacked my celebration and now want me to plan yours? You cheated on me with my brother and now want me in the kid's life? You abused me as a child and now want me to provide your elder care? These are all excellent setups for the wronged party to exact devastating revenge. It's a frightening combination of entitlement, shamelessness, delusion, and abject stupidity. I've known people who had their teenage sister be maid of honor because that was their sister, usually only sister, but delegated the biggest and most expensive responsibilities to others. But then, the people involved in those weddings were nice, decent people. And this was also before the days of week-long bachelorette trips with heavy drinking costing thousands of dollars. My wife just came back from a bachelorette party like this, where the maid of honor is a penny pincher, so everyone else stepped up. My wife was tasked with planning some meals from the bride-to-be's requested food, and this woman started going into how she is particular about XYZ is prepared, how she doesn't want to pay for the food, alcohol that she won't drink/eat, etc. This happened while the whole bachelorette party was on a Zoom call for about 10 minutes before my wife asked her if she was getting married instead of the bachelorette. She said no, so my wife told her to shut up, relatively politely. Gotta love that shiny spine. The fact that the mother didn't care that the announcement happened at OP's birthday shows that she doesn't care for OP and wants to help the sister plan the perfect wedding. And given that the mother and sister don't understand the responsibility of the maid of honor, they are terrible people. I hope OP's father leaves the mother, because she is emotionally hurting OP and stressing her out. My boyfriend had an affair with my therapist because she pressured him and badmouthed me, and I don't know what to do. I, 26 female, have been in therapy for about a year now because I was on the verge of a burnout and still had trauma to work through from my previous relationship, which has negatively impacted my current relationship with my boyfriend, 28 male. While my current relationship has been an increasingly frequent topic in therapy sessions lately, however, I was there mainly because of psychological pressure regarding my studies and work. Lately, I've been feeling increasingly worse and haven't been able to handle the pressure around me as well, which has also put a strain on my relationship. Because I wasn't being completely honest with my therapist and her suggestions weren't working, we agreed to include my boyfriend in some sessions. These were to be one-on-one sessions so that she could get his perspective and create a plan that would take his needs into consideration as well. My therapist, 37 female, has been very helpful in helping me better reflect on my emotions and better articulate my needs. The better I could deal with the pressure, the better things went between me and my boyfriend. After a while, I noticed that my therapist was acting increasingly strange, whereas before she was very neutral and asked more pointed questions that allowed me to reflect on my own behavior in relation to my relationship and patterns of behavior. She increasingly began to badmouth my relationship and blame me for my relationship problems. I found this very strange, and I couldn't explain where the sudden change came from, but I didn't think too much of it. Maybe I was just on the fence about how badly I treated my boyfriend. Fast forward to now. Yesterday, I was at my boyfriend's house, and we were having a nice day and decided to watch a movie together before bedtime. Out of nowhere, he suddenly had tears in his eyes, and then he confessed to me that he was having an affair with her. He cried the whole time, and reassured to me that he regrets it and doesn't want to lose me. In his words, my therapist put so much pressure on him that he didn't know what to do and couldn't say no. I guess it started when she invited him to a one-on-one session. That was months ago, and since then they have been meeting secretly. After he confessed to me, I drove home and cried the entire car ride. No matter how long I think about it, what he says just doesn't make sense. How could he do this to me? Ever since he told me about his cheating, he has been constantly trying to call and text me. I have 13 missed calls from him and a lot of messages assuring me that I am his world and he didn't want any of this to happen, but she pushed him into doing it. He has also been to my parents' house, and my mother has told me how miserable he is, and that he mentions over and over again that my therapist pressured him. Dear people of Reddit, how do I deal with this situation? Part of me doesn't want to believe any of this and wants to believe him. The other part knows that what he did is not excusable. In the comments, report the therapist. I'm ready to go scorched earth for OP. This is one of the most screwed things that I've ever read. Sue and go after her license. Something tells me the state board will not react kindly to this. Yes, as a therapist in training, this goes against everything we learn and every ethics code regarding boundaries and client benefit possible. I feel so bad for OP. Therapy is supposed to heal, not hurt. I've had some bad experiences with therapy, but nothing compares to this. Has to be one of the most unethical things I've heard of. My therapist did this with my husband. She was our marriage counselor. When I figured it out and confirmed it, I went full-on scorched earth. When I was done, she had lost her license and had to move out of state. She pulled her child from the school that she had enrolled him in, the same school that my child was enrolled in. She thought that she was just going to move into my house with my husband and live my life with my child and hers. I would be surprised if she's not in a psych unit somewhere after I had finished with her. And yes, I divorced my cheating husband. Your therapist can lose her license over this. That should be your first step, getting her fired. As a psychologist, I cannot emphasize enough how terribly wrong and unethical this was. It is a violation of your trust. It is a violation of her responsibility to both of you to help you heal. She abused her power and authority to manipulate your boyfriend into sleeping with her. While I do believe that he made a poor choice, the power differential here is substantial and it absolutely falls under coercion. He needs to report her to her licensing body immediately, or you can report it yourself. It must happen, not just for your case, but to protect future clients. Each state will have their own licensing body, and that is who you want to contact. Take screenshots of the texts if he's provided anything in writing about her behavior or their sexual relationship. And lastly, OP, I am so sorry. This will be more devastating than a regular affair, as it's someone who you've placed your trust in, and who you've revealed intimate knowledge to. Please find another therapist who can help you work through things. Unfortunately, this happens more than you think. A coworker of mine has had this happen to her. Her husband and the marriage therapist started an affair. She sued the therapist and got quite a chunk of money. Money didn't help her heartbreak, but at least it was some bit of justice. And now, on to the update. Hello everybody. Sorry for not getting back to you with an update for so long, and for not responding to the comments. The last few days were pretty exhausting for me, since I had to study for my finals and go to work, besides being absolutely heartbroken. But I have read through all the comments and am really overwhelmed by all the support. After all this happened, my ex-boyfriend tried to meet me at my place, so I went to my parents first, but then got in touch with him after a few days. We talked for a long time because I really wanted to understand what exactly happened. But the sad truth is, I still don't know if she really pressured him that much into having sex with her or not. He couldn't give me a proper answer, even when I made it clear to him what the consequences would be for her career. So I broke up with him. I told him that he could talk to me anytime if he feels what she did was sexual coercion and assault. But I can't forget what happened, even though I don't know who initiated the affair and who is to blame. I'm also not in the emotional state to continue seeing him if he's complicit in my trust being so exploited and broken. Regarding my therapist, I have reported her and am in the process of suing for damages. I absolutely do not care how much she manipulated my ex-boyfriend or if he willingly had sex with her. I have been her patient and she has gone behind my back. Hopefully she won't have anything left after I'm done with her. So that's it. I am now trying to move forward and focus on the important things. To be honest, all of this has broken my heart. From one day to the next, my entire life has been destroyed and I can start all over again in terms of my mental health. Right now, I can't imagine trusting anyone like that ever again, but I guess that's just life. We live and we learn. Thank you for all of the love and support, and a big F you to all of those disgusting pigs in my DMs that have been trying to get nudes from me while I was absolutely devastated and in a horrible situation. In the comments, holy crap, that's so screwed up. And you're so strong to have done what you've done. Take your finals and wake up each morning. I know it's probably impossible now, but I hope that at some point you can look back and recognize that strength and resilience that is within you. Absolutely agree. OP, that is some incredible strength and discipline that you have. Sending internet hugs and wishing you all the best. You know, as someone who has had a therapist mentally F me up when I was younger, I really regret that I never reported her for all the shady crap and blocked it all out. Kudos to you for being able to stand up to her, hold her accountable, and get your day in court. I'm sorry that your boyfriend cheated on you and did that with the person who was supposed to be helping you. Take care of yourself, and hopefully she never has the ability to do this to another client. Quote, I told him that he could talk to me anytime if he feels that what she did was sexual coercion or assault. I would rescind this offer. He may well use it as a way to try and worm himself back into your life. It's pretty clear from the first post that this was a consensual affair, regardless of who started it. If he needs to talk to someone, he can lean on his own support system. The betrayed party is not responsible for soothing the emotions of the person who cheated. I'm very glad that you're suing your therapist, and hopefully her license gets revoked so she can never practice again. What a disgusting person. I hope that she hasn't ruined therapy for you, as people like her are not the standard. I hope that you have a good support system as well, and kudos to you for your strength through all of this. And now onto update 2. Hello everybody. Many of you have asked me for an update, and I wanted to wait to figure things out for myself and for the right moment to share the latest news. I guess that moment is now. What you guys are probably most interested in is how things turned out with my former therapist. As I told you in my last post, I reported her to the responsible board and sued her for damages. Initially, the board was going to do a mediation between me and my therapist until my attorney presented them with the evidence for the lawsuit, and they saw that it was a clear-cut case. She lost her license, which makes me really frickin' happy. Regarding the lawsuit, unfortunately, it will take a while. Where I come from, things like that just take super long. On top of that, she sued me for defamation in the meantime, but withdrew the lawsuit because apparently her own lawyer strongly advised her not to sue me. Duh. Now to my ex-boyfriend. Many of you have written to me that they believed that he was probably assaulted or pressured by her the first time that he had sex with her. This thought has stuck with me, and I needed to clarify for myself. I contacted him and we talked a lot about what she did and what responsibility he ascribes to himself for it. And wow, that was painful. The way he described everything. He was extremely manipulated by her and pushed to have the affair. He also confirmed that in a written statement for the court case. We got back together because we realized how much we love and need each other, but I told him that we had a lot to work through. This all happened several weeks ago. 2 days ago, I was on his laptop because mine wouldn't connect to the printer. I use WhatsApp Web to quickly get documents from my phone to my laptop and vice versa. When I went to log into WhatsApp Web in the browser on his laptop, he was already logged in. I thought my heart stopped when I saw their chat. He was telling her how much he loved her. They were in contact all the time and also met several times. I haven't told him that I know everything yet, and instead just went home because of a headache after taking screenshots. I'm absolutely at a loss for words, and I don't know what to do. I just don't have the strength to keep all of this going, and to be honest, I'm so ashamed that I don't want to talk about it. I'm such an idiot. So, dear Reddit community, this is my update. Any advice would be appreciated. In the comments, is he doing this to try and convince you to drop the lawsuit? Maybe she asked him. Was there anything about that on those screenshots? It's worth taking a look. I know you called him first, but still, I don't think it's so crazy considering everything. OP replies, I didn't have the time to read through all of their messages, but the ones I did read didn't say anything about it. It seemed more like I was completely irrelevant and non-existent for the both of them. He did try to convince me to drop the lawsuit though. But really, they seemed like they are very much in love. In response to OP, talk to your lawyer first and ask them if there is any evidence that you could gather that will help your lawsuit, like more screenshots, phone records, etc. If you get those, then break up. Here's the thing. This was your therapist, and he only met with her for a couple of sessions. While she did abuse her position as a therapist to interfere with your relationship, he is just as responsible. If this was his therapist since he was a kid who helped him work through some deep childhood trauma, I could see a case where he could be manipulated into a sexual relationship since that would involve grooming and such. But this is not what happened. This lady was your therapist, not his. It's not like she blackmailed him with his deepest, darkest secrets. She put the moves on him, and he justified his affair because he wanted to have sex with her. It's not any more complicated than that. Yes, I'm sure she talked crap about you, and probably gave him reasons as to why he should cheat, and why he's better off with her, but that's not any different than cheating with a friend. A lot of affairs start off with two people commiserating about their relationships to each other. Then they get emotionally close because they feel like they can talk about things they can't with their spouse. Then it moves to physical cheating, and both are internally justifying their behavior. But it's just an affair. He wasn't manipulated into anything. At least you know you gave it your best, and you can leave without any what-ifs. But do not let him talk you into staying. Don't listen to his BS justifications about how he didn't really mean that, or he just thought he was in love because of things she said, or how she manipulated him into feeling that way, or any of that bullcrap. He cheated, he lied again. There is nothing to be gained by staying with him except more confusion, heartache, and bitterness. Just move on and get your payday. OP says, thank you so much. I needed to hear that. I am so sick and tired of his excuses and lies. All he has done is lying to my face. He has said a few times that we should distance ourselves from the situation and that he would feel better if I dropped the lawsuit because the whole situation is too traumatizing for him. Yes, I already sent everything to my attorney, and he told me the fact that they continued having an affair is even better for the lawsuit and the amount of money that we are suing for. Which is really screwed up, but yeah. He is literally the best. Thank you for your advice. Someone replies to OP, yup, he's using you to try to protect the woman he loves. I'm sorry to be so blunt, but that's all this is. He's clearly a crap person, and you deserve way better. And OP says, wow, that really hit home. And now, onto the last update. Hello all. I don't even know how to start this update. A lot has happened in the last 2 weeks, and I want to keep it short and sweet. I still can't really believe it. My ex-therapist and I have come to a settlement agreement. I have now received less compensation for pain and suffering than we had originally planned, but the risk was that she would file for bankruptcy. I hope that's the right term. I would get nothing, and in the worst case, I would have to pay her legal fees. The amount we agreed on is still sufficient. Now about my ex-boyfriend. The two of them are together. He lied to me the whole time and tried to influence me to get her the information she needed regarding our strategy and to dissuade me from suing. After the settlement, he confessed everything and broke up with me. That happened 2 days ago. I'm sure you're wondering why I didn't break up with him sooner. After my last update, I acted like everything was fine. I wasn't going to break up with him until I had gathered enough evidence to make sure that I got enough money from the lawsuit. But I really wasn't expecting that to happen. I knew he was an asshole, but I didn't believe he had absolutely no feelings for me anymore. I was obviously wrong. Well, that's all. Thanks to everyone who texted me and gave me advice. I have gotten a lot of hate messages the last few months. It meant even more to me that so many people have shown so much compassion and empathy. You guys are great. In the comments, this is equal parts infuriating and heartbreaking. I hope OP's lawyer is a goddamn shark and nails her ass to the wall. She absolutely should not let them know that she knows the affair is still ongoing. Honestly, I think she should just block him and not take any calls and completely avoid him and let him wonder what's going on. I think he deserves that uncertainty and anxiety. This is so messed up. It definitely sounds like OP's boyfriend would have had an affair at any opportunity, but a registered therapist should have known better. I hope OP gets whatever evidence she needs and gets out ASAP so she can start the healing process. Agreed. The fact that it's with a therapist automatically puts the affair in bad light. I have so much empathy for OP because she believed him when he said that he was manipulated and he was just lying. We tell people believe victims because so often real abuse of power gets justified, and when she believed him and he was lying, she had the rug pulled out from under her. Bro, I can't imagine going back to that mother hacker. Well, she's a victim, so if she thinks that he's a victim of the same person, that may be why. She hurt me so much, and she hurt him, we need to heal together. Something like that. OP also mentioned that she was working through trauma from a past relationship with her therapist. Depending on what that was, and how others in her life responded to that, I could absolutely see it being I needed someone to believe and support me when I was going through X, so I should be that person for him while he's going through Y. My background is social work. The top reason social workers lose their license is sexual relationships with clients. Therapy isn't a bad thing. But there are definitely bad therapists out there that prey on vulnerable people, like what happened to the original poster, and they are something that sends me into a fiery rage. I'm really proud of her for having the strength to stand up for herself and go through with all of this, even if she made an obvious misstep into taking the ex back. An obvious mistake even before finding out the torrid love affair was still ongoing and that he probably got back with her to protect the therapist by trying to get her to drop the lawsuit. I hope she takes the therapist for every last cent, every piece of property, and every asset that they possess. I just found out my boyfriend's ex is pregnant. So I started talking to a guy in the beginning of July, and we met for the first time about a week later. We hit it off very well and just vibed from the get-go. We both fell fast and hard. We both have expressed how we have never felt a love this strong before. It honestly has felt like something out of a movie. He has told me that he knows that he's going to marry me one day. We said I love you to each other a few weeks after we started dating because it just felt right. I know it sounds crazy, and we both have made comments about how this isn't normal, how fast we've moved along in our relationship, but it just feels right. We made it official at the end of August, but it's now been almost 2 months of us dating. He just told me last night, though, that his ex reached out about a week ago and told him that she's pregnant. He thought that it wasn't real and just drama, so wanted to wait until she went to the doctors to confirm. So she finally did go, and she is pregnant. We talked about it, and he was honest that a few days before we met up, he ended up hooking up with her. She's about 8 weeks pregnant. I don't know what I should do. I love him and don't want to leave, but I'm also really hurt and don't know how to go about this situation. Any advice would be helpful. In the comments, you've been dating for 2 months. He's having a baby with someone else. Move on. Sometimes relationships that move that fast can crumble just as quickly. She didn't even know he existed more than 2 months ago. Go back to that. I'm gonna put myself in your shoes and I'm gonna tell you what I would do. I would break things off with him and tell him that unfortunately, things have been great with you guys, but a child just isn't in your future right now. You are only 24, this is not your baby, and I say this because this is going to be an entire crap storm. His ex is not going to want to co-parent with you. She's not going to want you involved in the pregnancy, and I'm not even saying that you would want to be, but it's going to cause a huge rift in your relationship with your boyfriend. He needs to step back from you and figure out what he's going to do with the situation, whether they work out a parenting plan, if he's going to be there for her during the pregnancy, if they're going to try to work it out. He can't do that if he has you next to him. 9 out of 10 men try to work it out with the mother of their children in some way or form, so I think you're setting yourself up for failure if you try to stay with him through this. If in the next year, after the baby is born, they've decided that they're not going to get back together and they're going to co-parent and they're on good terms, then maybe you guys could work something out and try to date again if that's something that you want to do. But at this point in the relationship, I would definitely cut your losses. Check the math on your timeline, because she's either further along than 8 weeks, or he hooked up with her later than a few days before you met. You're in the getting to know you, honeymoon stage of your relationship. Maybe it is the case that you're a perfect match, but there's absolutely no way for you to know that yet. No matter how strongly you feel about this guy, you just haven't known him very long at all. And figuring out your long-term compatibility with someone takes, well, time. Give it a chance if you want to, but you don't need to feel like you're making a commitment here, and you definitely should not approach this as a commitment right now. And OP replies, I questioned the timeline too at first. I know they determined it based on the start of your last period. I don't have that information though, obviously, so no way to really know. Correct me if I read wrong, but a woman who was 8 weeks pregnant had sex 6 weeks ago, so he was having sex with her while dating you. OP replies, I have honestly been thinking about this all day now. You're correct that the math doesn't add up. So she's either lying about him being the dad, or he's lying about hooking up with her while we were dating. I will bring this up to his attention so he can confirm if it really is his or not. I think a paternity test will need to be done for sure. And now, on to the update. Boyfriend broke up with me today. So my boyfriend broke up with me today. I have been dumped many times now, and this one hurts the most. Mainly because all the other ones I saw coming. This one was straight out of left field though. He just found out that his ex is pregnant with twins, and they are his, and didn't think that it would be fair to me to drag me along for the craziness of this all. He also was just having a really hard time with all of this, and knows that he won't have the time to give me the attention I deserve. He said that he hopes it's just a pause for right now, but also knows that I can't just sit and wait, but said who knows what the future holds. My heart hurts. We both love each other very much, and agreed if none of this was happening then we wouldn't be breaking up right now, and that's what sucks about it. We both wanted this to be a forever thing. I don't know how I'm going to move on, or if I will ever be able to. In the comments, he did you a favor, and from your last post, it seems that he was sleeping with his ex while he was love bombing you. You'll be fine. This was the most selfless thing that he could have done for you, and I promise you, a more honest and worthy individual will come along. OP replies, he wasn't sleeping with her while we were together. She ended up being 13 weeks, not 8 weeks, and it's twins. He's honest, but he is doing what's best for the both of us right now. Dude should still get a paternity test, but holy F, how dumb can you get? You're desperately trying to win me back, so I'm going to trust you with unprotected sex, and am sure that you're going to get Plan B, which is totally unreliable anyway. Seriously? I don't know if I'll ever be able to move on after a 2-month relationship where he repeatedly lied. Oh, girl. She said they even talked about having kids, and she wanted to be the one to make him a dad within 2 months? No, no, no. Right? These people barely knew each other. The way OP talks about the relationship, you'd think they'd been together for 3 years and were living together. It's a big red flag, on both of their parts, that they were both so eager to say I love you to a near stranger. I'm a married elder millennial, but back in my day, you would maybe have just gone exclusive with someone you'd been dating for a few weeks like this, if that. The speed of this intense attachment is bizarre. Lord almighty, this girl is naive as heck. Also, saying that her fairy tale was ruined because she wasn't going to be the one making him a dad? Girl, it was 2 months. Also, he was having unprotected sex just before, and likely during their end of summer fling, so she may want to get tested. Our next post is titled, I ghosted my family and fiancé after what my sister did. I need a little advice on the matter, as I don't know what to do anymore. I was 21 when my fiancé asked me to marry him. He was the absolute light of my life. We had known each other since preschool, our families are very close. He would come and have dinner with us on a daily basis and vice versa. He doesn't have any siblings, but I have 2 older sisters, which is very important as he was also very close with them. We grew up together, and when we started dating, I don't think our parents stopped celebrating for weeks. He helped me deal with a lot of my anxiety, and even when I gained a little bit of weight and my mother berated me saying that he was going to leave me, he told her off and he said he loved me for who I was, not for what I looked like, even though he claimed that I was the most beautiful girl in the world to him. We were only engaged for 6 months before the incident. My middle oldest sister, let's call her Nikki, was a very cold person. She never showed any affection. She only ever opened up to my fiancé, as she said that she saw him as a brother, and he also helped her through a lot of her dark times, such as battling drug addictions and breaking the law. She and I never saw eye to eye. I loved her dearly because she was my sister, but I didn't like her as a person. Out of the blue, she tells me she wants to take me clubbing, as we had never been together before, and she felt bad that she was so distant to me. I agreed, and that night we went out. Clubbing wasn't really my style, but once I had a few drinks, I loosened up a little and began having fun. The night was going smoothly until Nikki spotted a guy across the room who she claimed she wanted to climb like a tree. So, she walked over to him, and within a few minutes she was back and she had a sour expression on her face. I asked her what was up, but she never said anything. I kept pressing because I didn't want our night to be ruined. She then told me the guy didn't want her number, but he wanted mine instead. I told her that he was a loser, and there were plenty of guys around who would kill to be with a girl like her. She didn't budge though. She told me she needed to use the restroom and then we would leave. I waited for over an hour. During this time, I was sipping on a lot of different cocktails. I then started feeling really dizzy and lightheaded. I figured I'd just cab it home as I was certain that Nikki had left. On the way out though, I bumped into a friend of Nikki's whom she had briefly dated. He asked me if I needed a hand to my car, and I explained that I was getting a cab. He said he was getting ready to leave so we could share one. I told him okay, and we walked out of the club together and into the first cab that we saw. I tried to find my phone in my purse, but I felt myself getting dizzier and dizzier. I don't remember what happened next, as I blacked out, and the next morning, I woke up on a hard sofa, my head pounding. When I came to, I realized I was in Nikki's friend's house, and my phone was sitting on the glass table in front of me, but it was flat. When he noticed I was awake, he offered me some tablets and water, and explained that I had passed out in the cab, and he didn't remember my parents' address, so he just picked me up and took me back here, where he laid me on the sofa. I told him that I needed to go home, as my fiancé would be worried. So he called a cab and I left. When I arrived at my parents' house, my mother, father, Nikki, my fiancé, and his parents were all standing in the living room. I thought they were worried about me, but the instant I opened my mouth, my fiancé asked how could I do this to him. I tried to explain that my phone went flat, but he then went on screaming about how could I cheat on him. I was baffled. Why would he think that? I tried to explain the night's events, but I kept getting cut off. Nikki then chimed in and said that I was a lying sla-la-la, and how could I be so heartless to a man who has been there for me through thick and thin? She went on to say that I kept flirting with random guys all night, and then when she went to the bathroom, she saw me leave with her friend. I told her what had happened, and she showed me photos on her phone where, as we were leaving, his hand was on my back, ushering me outside. Yes, the photo did look horrible, and I was so drunk I didn't even realize his hand was on my back at all. My fiancé was so angry. He kept shouting, and his mum and mine were both crying. I then asked Nikki to call her friend, and he would confirm that nothing happened, but when she called him, he told a completely different story. He said that I begged him to take me back to his, and when we did, we slept together multiple times. I saw red and started crying and yelling at Nikki because I knew she had organized this whole thing to make me look bad. I begged my fiancé to believe me, but he just shook his head and left. When everyone had cleared out, my mother slapped me across the face and told me to get out. I left and went to a friend's house where I stayed for a few nights. During those nights, I called my fiancé crying and pleading with him to believe me that nothing happened, but it all fell on deaf ears as he never returned any of my calls or texts. My mum texted me and told me she was kicking me out and that she couldn't believe that I would do such a thing, and a lot of hurtful other slurs that I don't think I could repeat here. She didn't even give me time to get my things as she threw everything out. I was now homeless. None of my family would take me in as they chose my fiancé and mother's side. I was homeless and single in less than a day and a half. My entire world had been taken away because of Nikki's lies. Now for weeks, I tried everything to get my fiancé back and my family. The limit for me though was when Christmas time had come and I went over to my mother's house to try and reconcile. I was sleeping from couch to couch during this time. When I got to my parents' house, I knocked on the door, but no one answered. My friend then called me and told me she just saw on Facebook that my family were in another state celebrating Christmas and they had posted pictures online. Everyone was there. My sisters, parents, grandparents, and even my fiancé and his family. When I myself saw the photos, I couldn't stop crying as they all looked so happy. I cried for days and days before deciding to block them all. I even returned my engagement ring. My friend knew someone a couple of hours away who was looking for some help in his restaurant, and he even had living arrangements above where he worked, so I could get rent at a cheap price and work at the same time. I wanted to start over with my life, as it hurt me that no one took my side and they all left me to fend for myself. I was able to move pretty quickly and was doing well. The apartment was tiny, and I had to work 10+ hours almost every day, but I was able to save a lot of money. I'm not living in the apartment anymore. I was able to rent a much nicer condo, but I'm still working at the restaurant as assistant manager. Now it's been roughly 2 years since I left and have not spoken to anyone of my family. I have no idea what's going on with them until I got a knock on my door. It was my ex-fiancé. I was shocked to say the least. All these feelings came rushing back, and all I wanted to do was jump into his arms. But then I remembered the pain that I had felt, and I tried to slam the door in his face. But he stopped it and asked that I let him explain. He said that Nikki had gotten married, and she had confessed that she lied about the situation because she had found someone she loved so much and realized what a horrible thing she had done. I asked him how he found me, and he said my friend told him. My entire family had been trying to get in touch with me and want to see me. So I told him that I needed time to see if I ever wanted to have them in my life again. He then left, and I have been a mess ever since. I don't know what to do. I know I'll never forgive Nikki. She could rot for all I care, but it's hard because my other family and fiancé didn't know she was lying. But I also felt like they abandoned me too quickly without letting me explain my side. I don't know if I should forgive them. Any advice would be very much helpful. Thank you for taking the time to read. In the comments, Frankly, I do not think I could forgive your ex-fiancé or your family for abandoning you so quickly based on an incident that didn't even occur. It's all well and good for them to be sorry, but they didn't have to completely reinvent themselves on their own the way you did. I wouldn't be quick to forgive or forget. The fiancé is the only one that I can kind of understand, but not too much. With what he had been shown, it would look like she had cheated, and at least for me, that's an instant end. The part that makes him iffy is how he wouldn't try to hear her out, but that's still because the sister was cutting her off anyways. You deserve an amazing life, and you need to think carefully about the family and fiancé who dropped you so quickly. Plus, your sister is a psychopath, and that's me being polite. She put you in such a position of danger for her own gain and destroyed your life. I can't believe, also, given her past, that your parents would side with her on this. I was thinking this too. If her sister has a track record of breaking the law and illicit drug use, why would they all believe her so easily? And if anything, her ex-fiancé and her have known each other since they were children. You would think the people involved would know each other's characters better than this. I'm petty AF, and I would request a meeting with the family and sister's husband, and in front of him, I would tell him how she drugged you and gave you to a stranger to do whatever while you were drugged. How even after making you homeless, jobless, supportless, she still let that go on for years and enjoyed Christmas while not knowing if you were in a ditch somewhere. Blow up her life. Also, you don't owe them anything. They are all horrible people. What if a complete stranger took OP home instead? What if Nikki's friend did do something to OP? Nikki put her sister in a life-threatening situation because she was jealous of the love OP had in her life. That is a heartless thing to do to anyone, but especially your sister. Nikki is an awful, horrible human being, and she should be the one that's getting kicked out of the house, having to fend for herself right now. My family did something similar, and I ghosted them. I was in denial about how bad it was for a while, and had thought there might be a way to make a relationship with some of them work. I realize now that it's just not worth the risk. And now, onto the update. Wow guys, I don't even know where to begin. I am honestly so grateful for all the support, advice, beautiful messages, and awards that you guys have gifted. I wish I could personally thank each and every one of you, and I did try my best to reply to every message. You guys are honestly so amazing, and I cried reading all the comments. My heart has never been so touched with the amount of love and support that I got on this post, and I am so sorry if it took too long to post an update. I was honestly in so much shock that I didn't know how to cope with it. So, I never got back to my ex. I didn't know what to do, but eventually, he must have given my phone number to my parents as they texted asking to meet up. I never replied and was planning on organizing a Zoom meeting, but didn't need to as they also showed up at my door. Well, my father did. When I answered the door and saw him standing there, I ended up throwing up, which he insisted on cleaning. When he was done, we sat down and I just burst into tears. My emotions were all over the place. And my father has worn the same cologne for a really long time, so when I smelt it, it just brought back all these memories. He tried to hug me, but I pushed him away and asked what he was doing here. He went on to explain that he and my mother are getting a divorce. He said he begged my mother to get in touch with me the minute I left, but she refused and said that I was acting like a baby, and if I wanted to leave them after doing something so horrible, then I could do things on my own from then on. I asked him how long did it take for them to notice that I was gone. He said they arrived back home after New Year's Eve and were planning on inviting me over so we could talk. That's when they got in touch with my friend, and she told them I left and she didn't know where I was. I asked him why didn't he listen to my side of the story and why did they throw me away so easily. He just started crying. He said he never meant for things to get so out of hand and he wishes more than anything that he could take it all back. I said when they found out Nikki was taking drugs and had dropped out of high school, they didn't throw her away. Instead, we all went on a holiday so she could focus on things besides drugs, and during that trip, she got hooked on alcohol, and each time, they defended her over and over. He said he had no idea my mother was going to kick me out. He thought that it was going to be for a few days, but then they decided last minute to spend Christmas out of state. My mother apparently promised him that I would be allowed back home after they got back. I said she threw away all my stuff, but he said everything was still there and she lied about that. I asked him what happened to Nikki, and he said that she is dead to him. He wants nothing to do with her, but my mother has been crying to him, asking to forgive Nikki as she is not well and they had already lost one daughter, they cannot lose two. He then blocked my mother and Nikki and has been on my ex's case about finding me. My ex caved in when my dad said he blocked my mother and Nikki and told him where I lived. I asked that he never show up again unless I give him permission, and he agreed. He asked what would happen now, and I said I really don't know, and that he hurt me really bad. I then just went into denial about how much he hurt me, and what it felt like seeing them so happy without me, and how hard it has been. We were both crying by the end of it, but I was really glad that I got it all out. It felt like a huge weight had been lifted off my shoulders. My dad then said that he knew a few places around the area and would help me get a better apartment, and he said that he would help get a better job, but I told him that I wouldn't be leaving this job, as my boss helped me out so much, and I wanted to repay him at all costs. I said that I didn't want him to do anything for me, but I said I do want to reconcile, but it has to be on my own terms, and it's going to take a very, very long time to trust him again, and I may never trust him again. He said he would do anything to make up for what he did. So I asked him why Nikki did this, and if she said anything about it. Well, she said she thought that my ex deserved better than me, and she wanted to see him happy because he was making too many sacrifices in the relationship. She loved him like a brother, and she wanted to break the engagement off. So that night, she asked her friends to come and escort me out of the club so she could get photos and to take me home so that her plan could work. She said that nothing sexual happened. I went to sleep on the sofa, and that was it. He was up playing video games all night until I woke up, which he has proof of apparently. My dad was planning on getting my stuff from my mother's house and bringing it to me, but I told him that I didn't want those things anymore. I then went to ask about Nikki's husband, and he said that my mother has been hush-hush with the entire situation, but he had his number and wrote it down for me. So, after my dad left, I decided to call Nikki's husband. I was sweating the entire time, and I felt so sick. What if I could hear her in the background? Well, anyway, when he picked up, I just spit everything out, which I deeply regret because I should have eased into it for him. He sounded really confused, and I explained the entire situation again. I even went into detail about her drug and alcohol problems. I was honestly expecting him to curse me out and defend Nikki, but instead, he let out a long sigh. And well, turns out, he had a feeling she wasn't exactly innocent. It turns out her and his sister have been having problems, and she's been spouting non-stop lies about his sister and has caused a huge rift between them. His sister didn't even attend their wedding. I told him I was sorry, but he should make things right with his sister because Nikki was the problem, not her. We spoke a little more, and then he hung up. I'm not entirely sure what he's going to do with that information. I hope that he cuts his losses and leaves her because he sounded like a really nice person, and even he had lost his own sister because of Nikki. So I have decided to reconcile with my dad. My mother has always run the show their entire marriage, so the fact that he's putting his foot down and divorcing her and going no contact with Nikki shows he's serious about wanting to make amends. I don't think I will ever reconcile with my mother, as she thinks that Nikki is a victim also in all of this, and at this point, I don't care to listen to her excuses. If she reaches out and we talk, I will update the post again. For my ex, I haven't had the time to meet with him and talk, though my dad mentioned that he wanted to come with my dad, but he told him that I would be too overwhelmed if both were there, and seeing them separated will help make clear decisions. He also mentioned my ex was arrested for assaulting Nikki's friend, who had lied about the entire situation. He was being charged, but the charges were dropped a few days later. I will update the post again when I have time to speak to my ex. Thank you guys for being so patient and so caring and just amazing. In the comments, so this means that your sister literally drugged you just to break your relationship up? The way that you were passing out at a club isn't normal. What about your other sister? Just because he deserved better? As if Nikki as a friend would have been good to start. Having a scheming, liar, drug addict being able to do anything to ruin someone else's life as a friend isn't better than willingly having to make sacrifices in a relationship. I want to know when Nikki made moves on him, because that's the real reason she did this, to get him for herself. That was my original thought as well, because why would she do such a horrible thing if not to get a man for herself? You know, the man who always helped Nikki as well. Nikki is a terrible hypocrite because she wanted the fiancé to find someone better, yet she herself was using his kindness too. But I really don't understand Nikki's husband. Like, she and his sister were fighting. Didn't he notice that something was off? I'm glad your dad got in contact with you, but just take it slow. It was still a big betrayal. He could have tried finding you sooner, etc., but better late than never. I hope you two build on your relationship. I understand the ex's reaction and pain, but just see what stage you are both in life now. Has he moved on? Does he have a girlfriend? Just talk everything out about how you felt and are feeling, etc. Just proceed with caution. I hope you do overcome this, but just be careful. Honestly, cut contact with the mum and sister. Never ever let them back in your life. Just the fact that they abandoned you. Fair enough if they chewed you out, but they genuinely practically left you for dead, no support, no nothing. Don't let them back in your life. It was the worst thing they have ever done. I'm still bitter towards the rest of your family too. The fact they never found you, or the fact they went away for Christmas, personally, I couldn't get over it. I wish you all the best. Nikki is the effing worst. Who drugs their sister and leaves them with some dude, then does it to steal her fiancé whom she gets bored of to glom onto some other poor sucker. F Nikki, F their mother, and this is almost as much as the mother's fault. And I wouldn't be surprised if the mother was actually a knowing participant in Nikki's scheme. Everyone wants to be loved by their parents, so I understand why OP wants to have a relationship with her dad. After clawing my way back to some kind of life, I would have still said my goodbyes to dad. I think there's some things that you can't have back, but everyone is different. If OP thinks it'll be different this time, then I hope it works out. Am I the asshole for throwing away my girlfriend's dead best friend's t-shirt? I know it sounds bad, but hear me out. I've been with my girlfriend for a couple of years, and we live together. My girlfriend lost her best friend of 10 years her senior year of college. They had gone through a lot together, but the best friend had some untreated mental health issues, and she lost the fight against her depression. My girlfriend was the one who found her, as they lived together at the time. This caused my girlfriend to spiral. She wound up helping the parents go through her stuff. She now has a box of old journals that were her best friends. They had a pact that if one dies, they wouldn't let anyone else read them. Too embarrassing or something. A t-shirt, some art she had done, and a bunch of scrapbooks. My girlfriend was in a dark place for a long time. I met her a couple of years after the incident, and it's taken time, but she has gotten better. She was and is in counseling, for grief and other stuff. She used to talk about the friend constantly, but now it's down to every once in a while. Now generally when I clean, I take stuff and put it in a bag and tell her to go through it before I throw it out. Today I was going through our closet and was making donate/throw-away piles. I asked her to go through it when I was done, but she had a lot of work and said that it was probably fine. She generally doesn't care too much about her clothes, and I think she was overwhelmed. Well, I threw out the stuff that was worn and old, ripped, etc. Then after I showered, my girlfriend came yelling at me, demanding to know where the t-shirt is. I asked her what t-shirt, and she said the one belonging to her dead best friend. I asked if she lost it, and she said no, it was in the closet. So then I said that it might have gotten thrown out, and she just started screaming at me. I said I asked her to go through the piles, but she said no, but then she said that it should have never been in the pile given how much she had talked about the friend, and that apparently she had told me the story behind the t-shirt. I don't recall it. I knew there was a story and I knew there was a t-shirt, but I never paid enough attention to which shirt. Well, she has now taken it back to her brother's. I just don't get why she's so upset. She has all of these other things to remember her friend by. A t-shirt isn't that big of a deal. In the comments, you're the asshole. I was on your side thinking that you just honestly screwed up with no ill intent until I got to your last 2 sentences. Yup, I was thinking exactly the same. Possibly honest mistake, until you make clear that you don't even understand why your girlfriend is upset. You're the asshole for not taking your girlfriend's own words about her own feelings seriously. Once I read that she apparently slept in the shirt all the time and he still thought that it was okay to throw it away, I started to doubt that this was an accident. Even if she didn't have an emotional connection to that shirt, why would you throw away a t-shirt your girlfriend sleeps in all the time unless it was damaged? And even then, why wouldn't he check with his girlfriend about that specific shirt? I don't believe that he didn't know what the shirt was. You're the asshole. You went through the closet today while she was working, while she was busy and overwhelmed, and you wanted her to double check the pile. This happened today, and your girlfriend informed you today that the shirt was missing. Did you go look in the bags? Did you attempt to find the shirt? You have made it clear that you do not care about the shirt. In the years that you have been dating her, you never noticed which shirt it was. You never paid attention to what she was sharing with you. A t-shirt isn't a big deal to you because you don't care. It is a big deal to her. Go find the shirt. Out of all of that, you could be excused for accidentally throwing it out, but you didn't care enough to listen to her story or just remember which t-shirt, or even check with her which one it might be, because you didn't bother to listen, when you were chucking out her other clothes. Who does that anyway? My other half wouldn't touch my clothes. Your last line is what betrays you. You don't see a problem with chucking it whether it was accidental or not. You're the asshole. And now, onto the update. So with my last post, I figured I'd owe you guys an update. I had apologized at the time, but I didn't think that I screwed up that badly. At this point though, some of this stuff felt excessive. I was the one going through our shared closet because we have been doing an overall deep clean of the apartment. As far as getting rid of her stuff, I was only throwing out stuff that was clearly ripped. She was aware this was happening. I did try to get the shirt back. By the time I got out there, the trash had been picked up. I called the company, but they said that it was gone. After reading some comments, I called the best friend's parents. My girlfriend still goes over around the holidays, and briefly explained what happened. They said that over the past year, they have been downsizing, and they went through her stuff, and half got donated, but the other half was sitting in her sister's attic in a box if I wanted to ask her. I called the sister, told her what happened, and asked if there was anything she would be willing to let my girlfriend have. She said that she has a couple of sorority shirts that she would be willing to give her, and apparently the friend had 2 necklaces, and she would be willing to give my girlfriend one. I said that would be great. I talked to my girlfriend and let her know where to send it. I then drove to the brother's house to talk to my girlfriend. When I got there, I hadn't even gotten out of the car before her youngest brother and cousin came out and just started screaming at me. Her cousin said I have no right to have any opinion about the best friend, that she was some amazing person, and I had been so disrespectful about her. He then said that if her best friend was still alive, she would have talked my girlfriend into dumping me years ago. I felt that was uncalled for. Her brother started telling me to go to hell, that I was always jealous of the best friend, and that I need to get off his property. I tried to explain again that I was here to fix it, but he wouldn't even let me see my girlfriend. Apparently she's in rough shape and had to take days off work because she's having some kind of meltdown. So I left. I got home and I got a call from the sister. I picked up, and I don't know what my girlfriend told her, but she laid into me and said that I was some unforgivable asshole stomping all over her sister's memory. She said she would be more than happy to send my girlfriend the items we talked about, but to her brother or grandmother's house, since I can't be trusted. A couple of hours later, I got a text from her saying that it's over and that she is breaking up with me. Her brothers came by an hour later to get her stuff, and she is now refusing to take any of my calls. So for those who hoped that she would dump me, you got your wish. I couldn't imagine breaking up with her over this, especially since we were together almost 3 years, and she can't even answer her phone to dump me. In the comments, you didn't break up over a shirt. You broke up because even when you acknowledge that you did something wrong, you don't think that it's that bad and just expect her to get over it. I would bet this is not an isolated incident. She's just done looking for reasons to excuse the things that hurt. You seem to think that after 3 years, there has to be some big justified reason for her to leave. Sounds like you got too lazy and comfortable and relied on your time together to be enough to keep her. Relationships take constant work to stay happy and healthy. Throwing out sentimental things is just one example of carelessness. I will give you some credit that you put the energy into contacting people and trying to find another sentimental item to help make up for your mistake. But I wonder if you would have done that if you hadn't been ripped apart by the internet. Learn from this and be a better partner next time. I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that he didn't learn a damn thing from this. The OP's comments actually reveal quite a bit, including that his girlfriend slept in the shirt very often, and that he thought that she was obsessed with the best friend because she had like 6 pictures of her around the house that he forced her to take down. ETA, OP says, I didn't realize it was the shirt because she sleeps in it pretty often, and I just thought that it was an old shirt. When we first started dating, she talked about her friend more like she was grieving her girlfriend than her best friend. There were so many stories that I couldn't possibly remember them all. Someone else said, not the asshole. I get she's upset, and I do think that maybe you should have been more careful with things that weren't yours, such as make a second pile and say, these things were ripped and I thought we should throw them away. I'll give you a few days to find anything, and set a date. I know hindsight doesn't help. Honestly, it sounds like she's a bit unstable and that you deserve better. OP replies, I agree. And when I say she was excessive, I mean excessive. There were so many stories. In the beginning, I would come out of the living room in the middle of the night to her watching these same 5 videos of them on a loop. She got a tattoo of her handwriting on her arm. She still has lunch every year with the sister, the best friend's boyfriend from the time, and some other friends on the anniversary of her death. There were like 6 pictures of them in the apartment. I finally got her to take most of them down. It feels obsessive at this point. Our next post is titled, My husband shared my nudes with his friends. My husband, 27 male, and his friends have a default Korean barbecue meeting every month. Last night, I, 21 female, was invited. It was a pleasant night out until my husband got a phone call from his mother saying that there was a leak in her bathroom. We excused ourselves out, explaining that we had to leave due to his mum's concern, to which one of his friends responded, It's still early. Homie can't wait longer for those red undies to drop? Directing at my husband. I was confused, but then I recalled buying a set of matching bra and panties 3 days ago. Given that I have fallen victim of always wearing unmatching sets, I was excited to send my husband a promiscuous photo. My husband was clearly giving him a death glance, while the 2 other friends told me not to worry about what was said and just have fun at home, when we made it clear that there was an actual emergency at my mother-in-law's. I didn't talk to my husband about it in the car. He has been seemingly on edge. I can't help but feel humiliated. I plan on confronting him tonight. I do not want to make this into a big fight, but I also want to make it firm exposing my nudes to his friends is an unacceptable behavior. How do you reckon that I approach the topic in the most reasonable manner? In the comments, it's a huge breach of trust. If it were me, I don't know if I could come back from that. Did he show them the picture, or did he send them the picture? If it's the latter, they may have shared them or even posted them somewhere. And has he told these friends private things about you, your marriage, or your sex life? I am so sorry, OP. Or possibly just told them about it. Even so, the friend at least could keep their mouth shut. If my boyfriend ever would show my nudes to his friends, I sincerely hope the friends see how screwed up that is and tell me what he did instead of shutting up. Even if he just told them about the lingerie set or something, he should at least check if she's okay with sharing that kind of information. I suspect he just told them that she finally bought some matching underwear and that it was red. That's it. He's a grown-ass man, not a high school kid who dates a girl who goes to a different school. Well, that's still not appropriate to share that information with his friends if his wife did not know and is not okay with it. Sharing your nudes without consent? Really? That can be a relationship ender. I mean, trust is everything in a relationship, and how do you trust him after that? And it's embarrassing because now his friends have seen you nude, and it sort of tells you what kind of friends that he hangs out with. That is private stuff, and I won't look at other people's private info. And the icing on the cake is the friends make a snide remark about it? You got your work cut out for you. And now, on to the update. Some people asked whether it was an actual nude or it was just a lingerie/bikini photo. I didn't think that would make a noticeable difference, but I've bought a see-through set, which makes me clarify the photo as somewhat nudist. I asked my husband why did his friend 24 Male make such a specific comment about the red panties, and he gave me the full story. I happened to send him the photo when his friend was going through his Instagram. Given that I hardly ever send my husband promiscuous photos, he didn't think for a second before opening the photo. For anyone who doesn't know, Instagram allows you to view a DM photo twice before disappearing. He said that the first time he opened the photo, he was surprised, so he suddenly turned it off immediately. But then his friend convinced him to open it again for a screenshot. His friend then went on to their group chat to say, "My husband is all grown up. My boy about a pound of pussy good tonight," with a description of what my undies looked like. He showed me all the degrading messages that his friend had written. However, his friends quickly shut down the guy on continuing his ramble. Later, on that day that I had initially sent the photo, his friend sent my husband a collection of the friend's hookups nudes and current girlfriend in trade of my photo. My husband sturdily refused. The conversation then just kept going on about planning for the next barbecue meeting, so my husband claimed to no longer think much about his friend's request. My husband admitted that he was in the wrong for opening the photo again long enough for his friend to take a good peek. He said that it was an ego boost at first, and he wanted to show off what he could pull. He agreed that his friend was out of line with the comment, and that he would no longer stay in touch with him. Thanks everyone for the advice. I noticed an overwhelming amount of divorce his ass advice. I'm just now realizing the importance of honest communication. Had I not been able to confront my husband, and he wasn't willingly showing me the texts, this issue would have eaten me alive enough for me to consider a divorce. So it's a happy ending for the both of us. Now in the comments, and that is how the husband found he was no longer receiving any risque pics from his wife again. Nothing between the ankles and neck, just to be on the safe side. New haircuts and shoes, that's it. But no bare feet either, he might be into that. I just want to know why he's even friends with someone like that. Ew. That guy sounds like he's that friend in the friend group, considering how all the other friends shut him down in the chat. Time to just vote him off the island, in my opinion. I've had this exact situation play out. I sent a nude and my husband opened it in his work truck with a laborer sitting next to him. The dude made one joke, saw my husband was genuinely embarrassed that the guy had seen, and it was never mentioned again. And husband and I agreed that I'd give him some warning next time so he doesn't open private pics while next to co-workers. It's really a very simple resolution when everyone involved are normal adults who respect each other's relationships. And these are tradesmen who don't blink at making obscene jokes all day, but even they have a line when it's someone's wife or girlfriend. Our next post is titled, "Am I the asshole for refusing to leave my friend's flat even though it disrespected his girlfriend's boundaries? I, 24 female, moved abroad with my boyfriend after graduating university 18 months ago. One of my best friends from uni, Callum, 24 male, returned to start his PhD and is living in a shared accommodation block. I was visiting my family back home this weekend and had arranged a day to visit Callum and see my old uni town again, and had then planned to go to the airport from there, as it's way nearer than my hometown. Callum had offered me to crash on a blow-up mattress on his floor, and I very happily accepted rather than shell out on a hotel. When I got to Callum's, he had invited his friends in the block to hang out, and I met his new girlfriend Hannah for the first time. They've been together for a few months, but we hadn't had the chance to meet yet. I liked her loads at first, and thought that she and Callum were super sweet together. I've known Callum for ages, and I'd never seen him this happy. When the group started to break up for the evening, she asked me where I was planning on staying for the night. I was surprised that she didn't know, and told her what Callum had offered. She then took me outside and asked me to please stay somewhere else that night, as she felt uncomfortable with a female friend staying in his room. I didn't really have anywhere else to go, so I said that unless she could help me with her hotel room at this late stage, I couldn't really go anywhere. She then said that I was disrespecting her boundaries with her boyfriend, and that in any case now, she was going to stay with Callum and it would be inappropriate for me to be there. She lives in the neighboring block, so I asked her why she couldn't just return there, and she said that she had the right to decide which women get to share her boyfriend's room, especially if it's an old female friend who I don't know if she's had a history with him. To be clear, there is no history there, at all, on either side, and I told her this, but she said that she had no way of knowing if I was telling the truth. Again, I refused to leave. We had arranged this ages ago, and she couldn't just undo that last minute unilaterally just because she was his girlfriend. And with that, I went back inside and we said nothing more on it. I stayed the night on the blow-up mattress and left early this morning. I'm at work now and just got a text from Callum asking if we can call this evening because he just got a text from Hannah saying that I've disrespected her boundaries and that he needs to cut me off. He's one of my closest friends and I don't want to lose him, so I'm wondering if I should apologize. My boyfriend thinks that this is ridiculous, and if anyone needs to apologize, it's her. But at this point, I'm not sure. Am I the asshole? In the comments, not the asshole. This was pre-arranged, and it's not your fault that he didn't tell her or clear it with her. She could have offered you her apartment if she wanted to stay with her boyfriend and that her room was going to be empty. Also, he could have gone to stay with her if she had such an issue. This all boils down to the fact that he did not communicate this to her. It's not your issue to deal with. Be honest with your friend when he calls. His girlfriend has probably not told him the full story. I think the even bigger point is that Hannah didn't communicate with Callum. Why was she the one to take OP aside and ask about the sleeping arrangements? That's a conversation Hannah should have had with Callum, and if he thought it necessary, Callum should have conveyed to OP. Not the arsehole. Let's take this a step further. The very moment Hannah had her conversation with you, you should have immediately called Callum over and included him in the conversation, letting him know that there was now a problem because Hannah doesn't feel comfortable with you staying there and you have nowhere else to go. It's not your fault that he didn't communicate with her beforehand. However, a lot of this could have been nipped in the bud if he was forced to deal with it like an adult once it was realized that this was a problem for Hannah. Then it would definitely look like Hannah is the problem and not you. And that's how Hannah is spinning it. The only problem is that it's entirely possible Callum could have left OP high and dry if his girlfriend threw enough of a fit about it during that conversation. Sorry, you'll have to figure something else out at the last possible moment. If he's having a conversation with OP about something he knows he planned together with OP and about cutting her off because of it, I don't know that that conversation would have gone OP's way at any point. Not the asshole. You've got nothing to apologize for. You didn't hide anything and you were transparent. If Callum didn't tell Hannah because he knew that she would react badly, that's his issue. It's a pretty big red flag that Hannah is already trying to control who Callum interacts with, and if he starts cutting off people she doesn't like, I suspect even his family will soon be on the cutoff list. Hopefully someone will manage to get through to him and Hannah will be sent on her way. Yeah, and has she even said something now? It sounds like all Callum has heard is disrespected boundaries, but no details. Which is super weird. I mean, of course, Hannah is entitled to have her boundaries respected in a relationship, but the person to talk about that is her boyfriend, FFS. As in, hey, it makes me uncomfortable if you have female friends sleeping over in your room. Can we agree not to do that? OP, I would just give a basic explanation when you talk to Callum later. Something like, hey, I'm sorry if there was some kind of misunderstanding. Hannah came to me last night and said she didn't want me staying in your room, but it was way too late to find a hotel at that point, so I told her I couldn't. That's it. $10 says that he'll be surprised because she was making it out to be something much larger, not the asshole. And now onto the update. Thank you to everyone who commented. I read it all. Quick clarification. The offer was never to share his bed. It was always the blow-up mattress. That's our own boundary. The building has no communal area other than a lobby, and I couldn't have slept there. Callum and I called, and I did what a lot of you said. 1. Not apologize, and 2. Just lay it out exactly as it happened. I even read from my post. The big surprise was, he had told her in advance, and she said that it was okay. As I commented, I had assumed that they had discussed it on the night, but my later guess was correct. She had said nothing. He then said that when Hannah texted telling him to cut me off, he told her that he wanted to talk to me first about what happened, and then she ghosted him. He apologized profusely to me and said that he needed to talk to her ASAP. A girlfriend of Callum's friend, Sarah, who was there, messaged me after we called because she read this post and thought that it was me. She told me that she's in a group chat with some others and Hannah, who had been ranting about how I had taken her outside to tell her that even if she was Callum's new girlfriend, I was his real girl because I was his best girlfriend, and that she shouldn't think about coming between us, and that I told her that Callum might be hers, but he'll always be my Callum. What? Sarah then told me that this has happened twice before, where Hannah has told Callum that a girl that he was friends with needed to be cut off, and she would then tell the group chat that they had said things like, "You're no good for him, we'd be better together," etc. Sarah now suspected Hannah was making all of this up. So I called Callum again and told him what Sarah had said. He was very upset. Most of the time, Hannah hadn't really given him a reason to cut off these other girls. Just that if he respected her, he'd trust that these girls needed to be cut off because it's girl code. He talked to Hannah in person this morning, and she confessed that she had made it all up, about me and about the other girls. She didn't want the other girls to even be an option for him to be close to if they were going to be in a relationship, so she persuaded Callum into breaking off the friendships, and he didn't want to lose her, so he complied. Her words were, "I wanted to save you from the opportunity to put another woman above me." He's not had a great experience with previous girlfriends being really emotionally distant, and I think Hannah was the opposite, in that she would lavish him with affection when he did things that she wanted. Not surprisingly, he broke up with her, and has now apologized to the other girls and again to me. TLDR, Hannah was manipulating and lying to everyone around her in order to keep Callum away from basically any woman. Callum found out and they broke up. We are friends again, and he owes me a drink next time we're in the same country. In the comments, yikes, yikes, yikes. Hannah's behavior is just worrying, and only after a few months. Aside from attempting to isolate Callum from friends, she seems jealous and insecure. The kind of person who believes men and women can never be friends. The lying about what was said just takes the cake. Drama queen. Did you pick up on the love bombing too? She would lavish him with affection when he did things she wanted. Also, you can see the subtle narcissistic vibes in "save you from the opportunity to put another woman above me." Save you. You need me to make a decision for you. You need saving. The idea that there is above or below someone else, the hierarchy. It always speaks volumes when your partner tries to isolate you from your friends and support. More people need to listen to the deafening warning in between the lines. I've never understood this attitude in other women. My boyfriend's best friend from the army, or one of them, is a woman. I've never met her, but she's got a 2-year-old child and a husband that she's madly in love with. They have no romantic history. He's mentioned before that he'd like to go visit them for a few days in Colorado, where they live. I have absolutely no problem with it. I'd probably send him off with gifts for her and their kid. If I didn't trust him, I wouldn't be with him. Yikes. I'm glad OP stood her ground and that Callum listened to her before cutting her off. Sincere communication really goes a long way. Good thing Hannah was exposed before Callum was totally isolated. My wife went to a hen party, but is evasive about what happened. A mutual friend is dropping weird hints. My 33 male, wife 30 female, went to a hen party last week, which was supposed to be dinner, drinks, and dancing, followed by board games at the bride's house. She doesn't like being away from home, so we were texting regularly through the evening. She sent me pictures of dinner, cocktails, and her and the girls, etc. It got a bit weird when they got to the club after dinner though. She said there was a change of plan and that the maid of honor had arranged a surprise for everyone, but my wife didn't know what it was. They were going back to the maid's house for it, where my wife had never been before. I messaged her to check that they'd got there safe, etc., but didn't hear back. I'm not one to panic, but my wife tends to get a bit panicky with new things, so I checked in with a mutual friend, 28 female, who was also at the party to see if it was all good. She replied quickly and said, "Yep, my wife's name loves the stripper." The friend hadn't thought twice about this, apparently. I messaged her today, and she voice noted me back a 30-second long groan, saying how hungover she had been, and that she wished there had been a stripper because drinking was the only way to enjoy the other activities. So I figured that that was the surprise, and I reply and laugh it off, saying, "Great, I hope she has fun." About 15 minutes later, I get pretty much the same text from her and my wife saying it was a joke, there was no stripper, just board games, and my wife sent me a picture of some generic board game on a table. The picture had a very faint watermark in the corner, so I tiny-eyed it, and it was a stock photo. I replied and said that I could see the watermark. It's totally fine if she saw a stripper, and it really didn't bother me. She didn't respond directly to that, but kept me updated that she was coming home, etc. later in the evening. She explained that the picture she sent was what the party was supposed to look like. She showed me the WhatsApp group for the hen party where that picture was sent to the group. She then showed me in her camera roll the actual picture from the evening, which was Mario Kart Monopoly and Risk, which nobody wanted to play. She said she meant to message me that afterwards, but they moved on to the next activity abruptly. When she got home, it was about 2 a.m., and she woke me up by falling through the door with her friends, who I could hear were definitely very merry. They dropped her and went, and she came and said hello, and then went straight for a shower. The mutual friend sent me a message saying in a hugely drunken jumble something along the lines of, "You might not want to kiss her on the mouth, lol." I mentioned this to my wife when she was out of the shower, and she turned bright red. She said she'd thrown up in the street and she didn't want to talk about it. She laid down in bed and fell asleep pretty quick. This was obviously the biggest, weirdest red flag. I sat down with my wife this evening and we talked through it. I told her everything I remembered about her coming home, etc., what she and her friends said, and what the evidence seemed to point to. Her explanation is actually something a few of you touched on, those dumb hen party games. Apparently the game, cringingly called wife training, was to deep throat a cucumber. Whoever got the deepest would win some plastic trophy with a picture of a knob on it. Great stuff. She said she didn't want to, but also didn't want to be a wet blanket, so she tried, but it pretty much instantly made her gag and throw up quite a large amount of baby chino, which she said is some manner of cocktail. She offered to show me on the party WhatsApp group some of the other girls doing it, as some had really gotten into it, and were really trying hard to win. The thumbnail was enough for me to believe her, and also not want to see any more. She apologized for saying she threw up in the street, but said she was embarrassed about participating in the game and throwing up over herself. This was also why she was in the shower when she got home. Curiosity got the better of me, and I messaged the friend back and asked how come my wife had thrown up, as she didn't seem that drunk. She replied and said, again, drunkenly, "She didn't throw up though, there was definitely gagging, lol." Again, I questioned this when I spoke to her and asked what the message had meant. She replied, "cucumber," which honestly seemed to be supporting the blowjob theory at the time, but after talking to my wife, it makes sense that she was referring to the cucumber gag game. I know what the friend is hinting at, but I've let it lie since then. I don't know how to approach it with anyone, and my wife has been more quiet than usual since. I'm not a confrontational person by nature, so I really don't know what the next step is. And thanks to everyone who said that I should power through this and helped me swallow my nervousness to get it done. Honestly, every part of what she said checks out, and I feel stupid for letting it run this long without speaking to her. Whether I was afraid it was what I feared and that she had screwed a stripper or something worse, like she'd been assaulted while drunk, I don't know. But it's been an important reminder to talk to her when I'm unsure. In the comments, I get not being confrontational, but you have all the right to tell her to cut the crap and just say what happened. You caught her in a lie with a stock photo, and your friend has sent some disturbing messages. Tell her she has one shot to come clean and see what happens. This is important. Trust is destroyed at this point. You've caught her lying about it already, and her distance and evasion only reinforce the impression that she's guilty as hell. This marriage will not survive without trust. If she doesn't want to lose you, she needs to be doing everything in her power to rebuild trust and reconnect with you. Basically the exact opposite of what she's doing now. An uncomfortable conversation might be gotten past, but stonewalling will only put even more distance between you. Yeah, like her sending him a watermarked photo? WTF. Just be honest, good God. So sickening. Gross. Her friends aren't very good friends if they knowingly supported her essentially cheating on you, her husband. Trash friends. I hope you have a conversation with her and get the truth to come out. This has nothing to do with the confrontation. It's well past that point. She needs to tell you what she did, period. Marriage isn't some children's game. Sending stock photos and making up what was occurring is a serious breach of trust. She lied to your face. For everyone who keeps mentioning this friend, who gives a flying F about the friend? His wife lied to him. He needs to talk to his wife and not play dumb kid games involving this friend. Facepalm. I didn't even register that it's been a week. Dude, what the hell are you doing? Why are you being a doormat? At this point, you need to say plain and simple, you need to tell me honestly what happened that night, or we are done. She needs to understand the severity of this conversation. And now, on to the update. Okay, wow. Thanks everyone for your messages. I've been at work all day, but checking in when I could. I appreciate the many messages of support and encouragement, and in a weird way, the people who told me to drop my wife immediately. Your guidance, be it one way or the other, helped me through this. I've updated the original post above with the relevant explanations that she's given me. I'm completely satisfied that she was safe, if stupid, and that she didn't choose to, or wasn't coerced into, sexual activity with another person. She's reading over my shoulder as I'm writing this, and she says, "Hello Reddit." Thanks everyone, and for the many people who wanted an update, I hope you're as happy as I am with how it's ended. Update 2, the overwhelming majority are telling me not to believe her, and I get it. If a stranger told me this sequence, I'm sure that I'd be skeptical too. I know the partner of the woman whose flat it was, and he checked the ring triggers for the whole day. The only people in and out were him, his partner, and the hen party. They live in a first-floor flat with safety windows, so unless the stripper was made of paper and posted through a window or stuck in a handbag, there just literally wasn't one. I didn't want to go all Big Brother on this, but honestly, it's bothering me thinking that people are still scorching my wife because of stupid drunk judgment. No more updates after this, and I'm not engaging anymore because people are adamant that I'm karma farming when I just want this over now. In the comments, sounds like the wife's friend likes to stir the pot and it went too far. 100%. For some reason, she's trying to cause genuine problems in OP's relationship. I didn't fully believe the wife's excuse either, but the video evidence from the doorbell camera is irrefutable. I don't see why it's so unbelievable. The only really weird thing is sending a stock photo instead of just taking a picture of the table, but her not wanting to send him a picture of her friends blowing cucumbers explains that. The friend is stirring crap, but even her comments are explained by the wife gagging on a cucumber as part of a drunk, dumb party game. I think the wife is reconsidering some of her friendships right now though. I agree with the idea that the wife did nothing wrong and the friend is a pot stirrer, but you can delete recordings off a Ring doorbell. So not seeing a stripper doesn't necessarily disprove anything. Wouldn't the fiancé know that something had been deleted? Good question. I have a Ring and just tested this. If you delete a clip, not only does the clip get removed, but so does the motion alert itself. My wife got home at 5:37, I got home at 6. I deleted the clip of myself entering the house, and there is no indication that I can see that shows anything was altered. If the fiancé has notifications turned on, he could hypothetically notice that he got a phone notification that doesn't match a login on the Ring app, but I doubt he would notice. The stock image photo is the really weird part for me. I could believe all the rest of the wife's story, but sending a stock image photo of a random board game instead of just a picture of whatever they were doing at the time is bizarre. This one's a bit too confusing for me to decide what happened for sure. It's possible she hooked up with a mutual friend, but that wouldn't explain the "you don't want to kiss her on the mouth" part, or "there was gagging" comments, since that obviously implies that a penis was involved if the wife actually didn't throw up like the friend said. Alternatively, the friend could be an absolute crap stirrer, which would make me not doubt the wife's story. My impression was that she sent the photo of the board games because the other option was to send pictures of what they were actually doing, which is blowing cucumbers. I don't know. If I were doing stupid deep-throating games, I wouldn't want photographic evidence of it for any reason. It just takes one stupid social media post to ruin someone's career. I don't think it's that odd. Our next post is titled, "Am I the asshole for refusing to remove a photo of my husband and myself before we attended a wedding?" So this past weekend, we attended my husband's cousin's wedding. It was in the same state, but not near where we live, so we stayed at a hotel near the venue. This hotel has a beautiful fountain out in front, and while we waited for our vehicle to be brought around, we had a bellman take our picture in front of the fountain. Neither my husband nor myself were part of the wedding party. We were simply guests at the wedding. Husband was dressed in a suit and tie, and I was in a burgundy cocktail dress. The bride and groom did request that no one take pictures during the ceremony or reception. We both honored this request. In fact, we took no pictures at the venue at all. I noticed several people taking photos at the venue before the ceremony and between the ceremony and reception. The following day, I shared the photo on social media of my husband and myself taken at our hotel before we went to the wedding. I did not mention the wedding or use the wedding hashtag or anything. There have been several people posting photos on social media taken at the venue and using the wedding hashtag and even tagging the bride and groom. Now the husband's aunt has texted me asking me to remove the photo because we are wearing what we wore to the wedding in the photo, and her daughter, the bride, wants to share the first wedding photos. I said I didn't see a problem because our photo was not taken at the venue and was not linked to the wedding or the bride and groom. And besides, there are dozens of other photos that were taken at the venue and tagged with the wedding or the bride and groom too, including the bride's own brother who was in the wedding party, and he's posted at least a dozen photos. Aunt says that she's trying to get them all taken down, but she doesn't even know everyone who has posted photos. So am I the asshole for not removing the photo of us before we went to the wedding? In the comments, not the asshole. I can see that they wanted to be the first ones, but as you stated, it's not at the venue per their demands, so I don't see a problem with you posting a picture that you took before the wedding. I'm sitting here, trying to rack my brain as to why I've been hearing a lot of this sentiment lately. The wedding party not wanting photos taken, or not wanting themselves in a photo, or no photos can be shared. Why? Why did people find another thing to unreasonably expect folks to follow some weird-ass rules? Oh, social media. It's because of Instagram, guys. Not the asshole, OP. You might want to start asking the wedding party when you can post your own personal photos. Like every time. It would be the considerate thing to do, after all. It probably grew out of people interfering with the hired professional photographer doing the job that they were paid for. And the good ones aren't cheap. I've read stories of people stepping in front of the official photographer and their $2,000 camera to take crappy pictures with a disposable camera, or of many pictures the photographer does take being ruined by 40 bazillion other camera flashes going off right at the key moment, and so on. And these are pictures of once-in-a-lifetime, blink-and-you-miss-it moments. Once the official photo is blocked or ruined, there is no do-overs. So, no photography during the ceremony or reception is probably just an effort to protect the investment the bride and groom have made on having a professional taking those photos. I can also easily see why the bride and groom might want to be the very first people to share photos related to the wedding. Asking guests to delay sharing their own photos even slightly related to it is not, in my opinion, unreasonable. Not that such a request seems to have been made in the first place this time. And now, on to the update. The stepfather of the bride contacted me late today. The bride doesn't want my photo removed. Apparently, the aunt/MOB best friend took photos of the bride and bridesmaids before the wedding in their dresses and posted them on social media. Members of the bridal party distracted her and gained access to her phone during the reception. They deleted the photos not just from her social media accounts, but from her phone too. She was upset, and she insisted that aunt/MOB make everyone else remove any photos they had posted. The aunt felt pressured by her friend and then began contacting people. She ended up having a major anxiety attack and ended up in urgent care this evening. Aunt has now cut contact with her friend, and friends and family have been told they are free to post selfies and similar photos from the wedding, but asked not to post photos of the bride and groom. In the comments, why have a hashtag if people can't take and post photos? People are more inclined to share pictures with you via the hashtag as the event is happening or right after, not whenever the event has been long over and the bride says it's okay. Etiquette is generally that it's okay to post pictures from the wedding immediately, but it's rude to post pictures of the bride and groom until they have already done so themselves. It's kind of like posting a picture of someone else's newborn on your social media before they've ever publicly shared a picture of their kid. Let them do it first. Having an unplugged wedding isn't unreasonable. If you've paid a significant amount for professional photographers, an aisle full of people holding up cell phones, stepping in the way of the photographer's shots, etc., can quickly ruin otherwise great pictures. The flip side is, my professional photographers only gave us kind of the photos we wanted. Some of the best photos of the day came from the guests. And that's where I'm going to end today's episode, guys. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought of it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.